All right, welcome back to Bayou Time. I'm Martin Folse, and we're going to now go to an editorial by the Comet and a response from the District Attorney's Office, which I thought was interesting on both sides. And, you know, sometimes in the media, we take issues on, and then we get a feedback. Like last night I told you somebody told a joke about the president, and I chuckled, not in malice, almost because I didn't quite know how to react. But I was wrong for chuckling, and another caller later on in the program told me I was wrong. And you know what? She was absolutely right. So sometimes in the media, we jump on things or do things, we're human, and we get a response back, and we got to eat crow every now and then. Well, I'm not so sure if that's a situation that's happening in Lafourche, but the Lafourche Daily Comet wrote an editorial to the district about the district attorney's office in Lafourche, and that was on Friday of last week, and they got a response back from the district attorney's office, I think yesterday or today. I'm pretty sure it was today. Let's pull up the editorial that they first wrote in Friday's paper, and we're gonna try to, this is from Michael Gorman. It's an editorial, Rethinking This Nonsense, published August 26, 2011. And if my voice allows me, I'm going to keep trying to go through it. But the crowing tone of the press release is a pretty good indication that the Lafourche District Attorney's Office took the drug charge against Matthew Zugsberger seriously. A California man on a self-professed crusade to change Louisiana's marijuana laws instead pled guilty to a felony drug charges Monday rather than face a jury of his peers. The release begins. At issue was a case against Zugsberger, who was caught receiving a shipment of more than 2 pounds of pot. Zugsberger argued that his prescription for use of medical marijuana should be respected in Louisiana, even though it was issued in California. The local district attorney disagreed, opting instead to spend more than 3 years going after a man whose only crime was possessing marijuana. I know it's a crime, but don't we have more important things to do? Aren't there people out there committing crimes against other people who might be more deserving of prosecution and jail time? Apparently not. In fact, even Zugsberger deserved no jail time. At the end of years of legal arguments and the like, costing God knows what to both sides, Zugsberger pleaded guilty Monday and got no time in jail. Let's get this straight. This legal case of massive importance, meriting a self-congratulatory press release and all, resulted in a suspended sentence. Zugsberger all along admitted he possessed the pot. His argument was that he had permission to possess it. The legal system, on the other hand, argued that he had no such right and had to be punished severely for this crime that hurt no one. In the end, I suppose they were both right. Zugsberger had to forfeit the marijuana. He also had to forfeit the $4,640 in cash he had at the time of his arrest. Still not sure why the cops can just take your money. And he had to pay a $2,000 fine. In addition, he will serve 3 years of probation. So it cost him plenty. On top of all that, he had the expense of defending himself against a charge that could easily have been avoided. But significantly, no jail time. The defendant's medical marijuana card did not allow him to flaunt our laws, and this plea shows that he finally acknowledges that, District Attorney Cam Morvant said in the release. I respectfully disagree. Instead, it shows that a person can possess 2 pounds of pot without getting sent to jail. To me, that means we might as well do away with an outdated, draconian law that does nothing more than legally harass otherwise. Law-abiding citizens. How many people are in America's prisons right now because of nonviolent drug offenses? Too many. The debate is relevant again locally because our parish officials are in the midst of discussing what kind of jail they're going to build to replace the outdated one now being used. There has been some talk of building a giant facility that would hold many hundreds of prisoners. Do we really need that? Or could we handle some of the seemingly infinite supply of prisoners by having more sense about what we make illegal and what we choose to vigorously prosecute? Mr. Zugsberger possessed marijuana, a crime in Louisiana, but he had a prescription for it. Are authorities here going to prosecute everyone they find with an out-of-state prescription? If so, the sheriff and parish council had better make plans for a much bigger jail than they have discussed. If not, why treat this guy differently? It is time we got over our knee-jerk reaction to marijuana and started having some common sense. Marijuana doesn't kill as many people as drinking or cigarettes, and they're both legal. I don't want everyone walking or driving around stoned, but we could punish that kind of behavior like we do DWI, for instance, without imposing penalties on marijuana possession that are way out of line with the actual threat it poses. Besides, how illegal can something be if you can have 2 pounds of it and not go to jail? This editorial page was by Michael Gorman of the Daily Comet. Now, the response came from, once again, from the Lafourche District Attorney's Office, came from Joe Soigné, who is the first assistant district attorney, and let's see his response. I'll take a sip of water, then I'll start. And here's what he said. Dear editors, I wish to respond to Michael Gorman's August 26 editorial, Rethinking This Nonsense. As the prosecutor who handled the case in question from its inception, I would begin by counseling Mr. Gorman against trying to analyze a legal proceeding without looking at all the facts. As a prosecutor, that is what I do for a living, and I've come to learn, and there is no one punishment that fits every crime, nor one sentence that fits every defendant. Mr. Gorman's disdain for anti-marijuana legislation is clear, yet his arguments are far from consistent. On the one hand, he criticizes my office for our attempts to uphold the rule of law, asking, how many people are in America's prisons right now because of nonviolent drug offenses? Yet he then berates us for not incarcerating the defendant. Is he upset because Mr. Zugsberger is not in jail? Is he upset with the legal system for the war on drugs? Should no drug offender, or perhaps all drug offenders, be in prison? He continues, I know it's a crime, but don't we have more important things to do? The answer to his rhetorical question is a clear yes, and we also deal with those important things every day as well. During the same week that Mr. Zugsberger's case was successfully concluded, my boss, Cam Morvant, also obtained a conviction on one of the oldest outstanding homicides in Lafourche Parish. After 19 years of investigation by law enforcement and for 4 years of work by our office, a family was finally able to obtain closure on a brutal, notorious murder which shocked the entire area. Was the conviction of Derek Odom not more worthy of a Comet editorial than a pot case? Our office prosecuted the murder of the Reverend Hunter Horgan all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court in pursuit of justice not only for a family, but for the congregation and a community as well. The point is, we do handle more important things every day, but no crime is too small to merit our attention either. Mr. Gorman continues, aren't there people out there committing crimes against other people who might be more deserving of prosecution and jail time? Apparently not. Rather than fault Mr. Gorman for his erroneous conclusion, I would invite him to attend a session or two of criminal court in an attempt to educate himself. I think he would learn that we can and do prosecute more than one crime at a time. No case was neglected in favor of the Zugsberger prosecution. Let's get this straight, Mr. Gorman says. This legal case of massive importance, meriting a self-congratulatory press release and all, resulted in a suspended sentence. There is no hiding Mr. Gorman's sarcasm, but he misses the point of the press release, or else intentionally obscures it. Our office has written countless press releases over the years, delivered to all media outlets which cover Lafourche Parish, in an attempt to keep the public informed on cases in which there is public interest. We consider this our obligation. We enjoy a healthy, open relationship with all media, including the Daily Comet, and we will continue to nurture these relationships. But it was the Daily Comet which repeatedly made Mr. Zugsberger's self-professed crusade front-page material, not the district attorney's office. The massive importance noted by Mr. Gorman was generated exclusively by the defendant with no little help from the Comet. Our case file includes many Daily Comet articles on Mr. Zugsberger. In fact, the Comet on October 14, 2009, not only gave the defendant a forum from which to vent his frustration with Louisiana marijuana laws, but also pictured him standing proudly in front of his victory garden. I do not recall Mr. Gorman mocking Mr. Zugsberger or denigrating the merits of his cause. To be clear, I do not fault the Comet for any attention given to the case of Mr. Zugsberger's cause, and respect that Mr. Gorman may have strong opinions on the subject. However, if his problem is with the mere existence of marijuana laws, his frustration should be directed towards the legislature. Our job is to enforce all laws on the books, not just the ones that we like. Having duly noted the Comet's interest in the Zugsberger story, we promptly sent the paper a copy of our press release when we noticed that they had sent no one to cover the trial. It was a courtesy we have extended numerous times before. We will continue to provide news releases to the Comet and all other media outlets, and our door is always open to any journalist who has a question. I would only ask that Mr. Gorman take us up on that offer the next time he has questions about what happened in court. Mr. Gorman wonders about the cost of the litigation on both sides. I can only speak for myself and the taxpayers of the state of Louisiana. The extra cost was nothing. It's what I'm already paid to do. I take pride in the work I do on behalf of the people of this parish. I give my best effort in prosecuting all cases, from the ones even Mr. Gorman would recognize as important to those cases he would have me ignore. I will give marijuana cases my best efforts until the legislature tells me that this is no longer a crime to possess weed in this state. I would ask Mr. Gorman one question and hope that he answers it honestly, if only to himself. If Mr. Zugsberger had been sent to prison, would he not have railed against our office for taking up limited prison space? Because of Mr. Gorman's a priori position, no action by the district attorney's office would have been satisfactory. So what does he really expect? If there is a perfect sentence in this case, I noticed that it was not suggested by Mr. Gorman. I can only say that it was reached after fair and full deliberation by both parties with guidance from the judge. Judges pass sentences, not prosecutors. And while we agree with his recommendation in this case, there were many factors that went into this decision, as I alluded to at the beginning of my letter. We did not beg Mr. Zugsberger to plead to a felony. He did so of his own free will. It seems that Mr. Gorman ascribes a bloodlust to our prosecution that never existed, yet at the same time is amazed that we chose not to slake our imaginary thirst. It would have been very easy, in light of all of this that was said in the media by Mr. Zugsberger, to take a hard stance against him, but we did. And when he finally came forward with a sincere desire to accept responsibility for his actions, I feel we responded with fairness. Before closing, I would like to point out that it is not my intention to be a crusader in the political debate over the legalization of marijuana. My passion is the rule of law. If the Louisiana legislature ever decides in its wisdom to legalize marijuana, you won't hear a peep out of me. But I think I speak for every man and woman in the district attorney's office when I say that before the day ever comes when I willfully ignore the laws of this state, I'll turn in my badge and find another line of work. I believe the people of this parish deserve no less. That coming from Joe Soignier, First Assistant District Attorney. And I thought it was very newsworthy to present both sides because of the ongoing debate in marijuana talk. You've heard us talk about synthetic marijuana, and that question has come up many, many times on the program. But nonetheless, an editorial by media and a response from the district attorney's office in Lafourche Parish. We're going to take a break. When we come back, Stan Gravois is going to take over a little early. My voice is struggling, especially after that, and he's going to come on very shortly, and then he'll bring us into sports also. We'll be right back.